If you're thinking of moving to southern Utah, maybe St. George or Washington or Ivins, the market down here has changed a lot over the past year or two. But here's what a lot of people maybe miss. Washington County is not like the rest of the nation. Nationally, there's still a lot of housing affordability problems and of course higher mortgage rates. But here in Washington County, inventory has actually jumped dramatically. Buyers have more choices and sellers have to adjust a little bit. So the question is southern Utah becoming a buyer's market? So in this video, we're going to talk about more specifics. Are the house prices dropping down here in southern Utah? How does Washington County compare to the rest of the nation? Do buyers actually have leverage right now? Can buyers use it to their advantage? Should sellers be worried, or should any of us be worried? And what do I do if I was looking to buy or sell in southern Utah this year? Before we get started, my name is Dallin Hales. I'm your local southern Utah realtor. I live down here and I do it full time. I genuinely love real estate and want to help you. People reach out to me, ask questions every week, just a call or a text, asking about which area they should move to. Whether it's finding which city, whether it's looking into new construction, what your lifestyle is like, feel free to reach out to me. You can call me or text me. I would love to hear from you. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want more market updates and deep dives into the neighborhoods down here so you can know what the areas are like. All right, so let's talk about if Washington County is actually becoming a buyer's market. So let's start with inventory. May of 2025, there were 1,116 residential listings in Washington County. In May of 2026, there are just under 2,000 active listings. So that means active listings has increased by 77%. That's a major shift, and that's kind of where Washington County looks different from a lot of parts of the nation. Nationally, active listings were up about 2% year over year in May. So when we compare Washington County to other parts of the nation, our inventory has gone up pretty dramatically. But house prices aren't even going down, and we'll get to that in a second. More inventory is great for buyers because it gives you more options, less urgency, more homes to compare, more sellers competing against each other, and more opportunities to negotiate. And I want to be clear again that more inventory does not mean the market is crashing. It just means buyers have more leverage than before. It's not necessarily a good market or a bad market because sellers or buyers will have more power. And in this instance, buyers have more power. So what does this look like from a national standpoint? In May of 2026, the nation, according to the National Association of Realtors, had about 4.5 months of inventory. If we didn't list any more homes, how long would we have inventory for? In Washington County, in May of 2026, had 4.16 months of inventory. And you may be thinking, wait a second, that doesn't seem that different. Year over year, Washington County had a much more dramatic increase in inventory. And so sellers are having to maybe reconsider their price or possibly consider offers that aren't full asking price. The market just a few years ago affected homeowners, including myself, pretty dramatically. We got into kind of a mindset, and this is my personal opinion, of I can list my house at a premium and it will sell eventually. But what we're finding out now is that if we list our house at a premium, it may not sell. And it may sit there unless we have a proper marketing strategy. We get down to it. Buyers are comparing more homes than they were a few years ago. Is this house the best value? They're looking at price per square foot. They're looking at how long has it been sitting? Has it been sitting for a day or has it been sitting for a year? Can I ask for closing costs and concessions? And how does this house compare to new construction? It's a very different market than it has been. So this is probably one of the biggest questions I get is like, what are the houses doing in southern Utah? Are prices dropping? Looking at the market, we would assume that houses are starting to drop. But the reality is, in May of 2025, the median sold price in Washington County was about $500,000. In May of 2026, the median house price sold is $524,000. So year over year, the median price sold is actually up about 5%. In comparison to nationally, the median sold price was about $495,000. So Washington County has a higher median sold price compared to the nation. Nationally, the median existing home sales was about $430,000. Homes in Washington County, the median sold price was about $95,000 higher than the nation's. Affordability is a big talking point here in Washington County. The better way to look at this is that prices down here are not crashing. They're actually going up, and buyers are pushing back against some overpriced homes. That leads me to something that was really interesting looking at the MLS data. In May of 2026, the median active list price in Washington County was just under $600,000 at $594,995. But the median sold price was $524,500. That is a big gap. And that tells us something very important. Sellers may be asking for higher prices, but buyers are not always willing to pay those prices. Now, buyers are willing to buy houses, but just maybe not overpriced houses. Just the other week, I was working with some buyers. We went to put an offer in on a house, and it went under contract in 1 day. So properly priced houses are selling quickly. This is probably the best way to explain the market right now. Overpriced houses are sitting on the market. Well-priced houses are selling, and sometimes very quickly. So what this means as a buyer, you have more power to negotiate. You have more homes to compare. In my opinion, it's a great time to buy a house because you have lots of options. And if you are a seller or own a home like myself, this means if we want to sell our house, we probably can't list it at the highest possible. We need to look at nearby comparables and list the house according to market price. So what about the question, are homes sitting longer in Washington County? And again, this is where the data gets interesting. You might assume because inventory is up that houses are sitting longer. But houses that sold in May of 2026 had a median sold days on market of just 36 days. In May of 2025, that number was 39 days. So homes that are selling are actually selling a few days quicker than the previous year. So in a nutshell, it's very important. Inventory is up, pending listings are down, buyers have more choices, but homes that are priced correctly are still selling. Now, if we compare this to the national market, Realtor.com reports that the national median days on market is 52 days. So houses in Washington County are moving quite a bit quicker compared to the national median. That tells me it's not a dead market. It's more of a selective market. Buyers are still buying, but they're not buying everything. They're choosing homes that make the most sense for them. And something to consider is pending listings. Now, in May of 2025, there were 477 pending listings. In May of 2026, the number has dropped to 249. Okay, almost half the amount of pending listings. Pending listings are important because it shows buyer activity, shows how many buyers are out there putting offers on homes, how many sellers are accepting those offers. Sold listings tells us what's already closed. So even though the median price is up year over year, buyer activity seems to be softer, which means buyers could be pulling back, realizing that there's maybe overpriced houses, or they're willing to wait for the right house. Buyers are willing to do more comparing, more due diligence in finding out which area they want to buy a house. This means strategy is very important. So let's talk about how much power do buyers have in negotiating. Another common question is, what can I do right on the offer? What can I negotiate? Based on the MLS data, the answer is yes, you can negotiate on most homes, but not every single home. In May of 2026 in Washington County, homes sold for about 96% of their original listing price. Homes sold for about 98.6% of the current asking price. So a lot of times we'll list a home, and what I tell sellers is, hey, let's list this home at this market value. And then after 30 days, if we don't get much traction, let's plan on making a price adjustment. Whereas a few years ago, we did not have that negotiating going on. So buyers now, more than they have in several years, are identifying what is important to you. Do you want a pool? Do you want to live in a cul-de-sac? Do you want to live in a certain location? Because buyers are more willing to wait for those houses. Important things to look at is how long has the home been sitting? Has it been sitting on the market for a year? Has the seller already reduced priced? Is the home vacant? Is it just sitting there? Are there several homes for sale nearby? Is there new construction nearby that the seller would also compete with? How much work does the home need? Now, this isn't a 2021 frenzy market, but statistically, a properly priced house should sell in about a month. Another common question I get is, now a good time to buy a house in southern Utah? My answer is, it can absolutely be a great time to buy a house as long as the price is in your budget, you have a clear strategy, and you plan to maybe own the home for a few years, because buyers have more options this year than even last year. Inventory is up. The months of inventory almost doubled, but the median sold price is also up. So it's a clear indicator that the market is not crashing at all. It is actually quite stable. Now, I've also talked to several people even just in the past few weeks, that said they're waiting for prices to crash. And obviously, I don't know the future, right? But according to the MLS data, we are not trending towards a crash. We do have more inventory, but that's great for buyers. Median house prices that are sold are actually going up. But we're seeing this adjustment where sellers are reducing their prices and buyers are kind of negotiating their way up. We didn't see that a few years ago. Now, the bigger issue nationally is affordability. Houses are just more expensive. Mortgage rates are still high, and monthly payments are a huge contribution to our decision in buying a house. So what price ranges should buyers and sellers understand? A competitive price, is between $300,000 and $500,000, or those houses are still in high demand. These are the houses that will sell typically within a month if priced correctly. $550,000 to $700,000 opens up to more single family options, maybe more different layouts for you to choose from, and you can start to choose which neighborhood you want to be in. If you're looking in $700,000 to $900,000, you can start to look at RV garages, RV parking, pools, a lot more premium communities, and $1 million plus is where buyers can be more selective. You can pick which views, what kind of pool you want, what kind of backyard you want, how much garage space you want, what kind of lifestyle you want. You really have a lot of options at $1 million plus. So what about locations down here as a buyer? If you want newer and master plan communities, you could check out Desert Color, Long Valley, Washington Fields. If you want more Red Rock, more of a custom feel, we can check out Ivins, Santa Clara, the Ledges, places by Snow Canyon. If you want a little more value for your money, try to knock down that price per square foot a little, we can look at Hurricane, Laverton, Tokerville, some parts of Washington City, and some older areas of St. George. Now, what do sellers need to know about Washington County? The biggest mistake as a seller we can do is selling our house like inventory is low, as if it's the only house going on the market, right? When in reality, we're putting our house up competing with other houses that may be similar. This is why a property marketing strategy really matters, because buyers have more choices and your house should stand out as much as possible. A good analogy is if you've ever sold something online, you have to decide what to list it at. If you list it at a premium price, you're like, it's fine if it sits there for a few days. But what happens a lot of times is it just sits there for a long time and doesn't ever sell. Whereas if we want to actually sell something, we can list it at a competitive price and it sells. But we get in this mindset of where, no, it's fine, I'll just list it at a premium and it'll sell eventually to someone. But that's not always the case. So in a nutshell, is Southern Utah becoming a buyer's market? My answer is it's definitely becoming a buyer-friendly market, but it's definitely not crashing. If you want to find out prices for yourself, feel free to call me or text me or click the link in the description to start searching for homes, and I'll see you guys in the next video.